You know the end of a company is near where it's more focused on the diversity of staff rather than the quality of the game. And that seems to be the case for Capcom as it renews its focus on the staff and its overall dynamics rather than actually making good games. And this is something that was quoted during a shareholders meeting where they talked about how they're more focused in bringing a more variety of staff members when it comes to gender and when it comes to race. It's not about producing good games anymore at Capcom. It's about reaching an internal quota and a percentage of diversity within the staff and of course within the games themselves, and it's bearing out fruit already with what we saw in Street Fighter 6 with a multitude of differences in new characters that have traits that were similar to a lot of westernized versions of video games that we see coming out lately, where we see a lot less cleavage with a lot of the female characters, especially Chun-Li, and of course other characters as well, boasting these non-binary characters with aspects that we see a lot in westernized video games. And I think this is the thing people were having trouble with within the Capcom world. Of course, if you play some of the Capcom games like Resident Evil, like Street Fighter, they're still high quality games. They may have these small diverse elements here or there. The casting for Ada Wong was terrible because they wanted people of the same race, same nationality playing these roles, and produced a rather lackluster product, at least voice actor wise. And I think that's the thing people were seeing within the Capcom universe as they dedicated themselves to these DEI initiatives, these diversity, equity, inclusion initiatives. We saw small, minor hiccups within the games where we saw these more manly, masculine frames. We saw a lot of covered up female characters, and of course some ugly characters as well. Of course, they still maintain a quality where people could still be fans of these games. We still saw some attractive attire, some beautiful characters, so people didn't complain. But now that seems to be all changing, where they're trying to make the games company itself more in line with Western ideology. They're having internal quotas, meetings about raising the percentage of female executives, programmers. They're trying to do a complete revamp of the company itself, and this is something that a lot of people are scared of, at least fans, when it comes to including non-Japanese directors as well, non-Japanese personnel they want to include within the games development process. And of course, if you know about the westernized games development process, that includes bringing in a lot of people that hate video games and hate the gamers that play them. If you know anything about Sweet Baby Inc., a consultancy firm that is only known for producing content from a political progressive ideology, and the staff included in this are former developers of Ubisoft, and you can have these developers switching out in and out of their roles within these consultancy firms, going back to different developers. And this is how you get a space that is filled with these developers with the same mindset, because they go back and forth between these consultancy firms and into the development process. And I think when you hear about bringing non-Japanese Americans into the gaming space, you're hearing about American developers that have this mindset that is set in stone with Sweet Baby Inc., that is only focused on progressive ideals rather than making quality games. And this leads to a massive decline in the overall quality of the game. And I think that is the thing that is scaring people when they hear this about Capcom. Capcom is doing the opposite of what it said it would do. It said it would focus on producing games that are more in line with the customer base and its audience wants and needs. They even held a super election where they talked about what the gamers actually want from Capcom and what they can do better. And if you look at the results of the election, you can see obviously the majority of the game players are male for Capcom games, over 82%. And you're looking at 14% female, and you look at 4% other. They fall into that gender non-binary aspect within the populace. And I think this is showing the overwhelming demographic that they need to focus on are male gamers, and male gamers are usually more responsive to the developers and executives that actually want to cater to male gamers. And this is ignoring the fact by bringing in this internal quota where you want to raise the overall balance of female male developers. I think it's fine to have a lot of female developers, but forcing people into that space where they're not even inclined to make products for that male demographic is a recipe for disaster. I think that is a failure within the Western games development sphere, where it's trying to force certain demographics when in reality the people that are playing the games want certain things. And you can see this with their own election results, where people demand exiliation exhilarating gameplay and unique and attractive characters. But that is not the case for the new non-Japanese developers that are usually out there in the Western games development sphere. They focus on ugly characters. You can see this with Concord, a game that's being developed for PS5 that focus on bringing about more ultra-realistic, ultra-modern appearances that game players are just not responsive to. And you can see this with the beta numbers for this game, where it's not getting anyone interacting with the game at all, coming in at a low 500 people playing the beta. And this is supposed to be a time where a game is supposed to be building its audience, but it has a deteriorating audience because people are just not engaging with the overall designs of the characters. You can see this already happening with Street Fighter 6, where the designs of the characters are kind of abysmal, even with some of the new characters that are coming out, like Terry. Terry has like this ugly looking face that people are just not responsive to, or don't remember that character looking like this. But this goes in line with the new aesthetic standards that they want to include, the westernized aesthetics. No one's allowed to be beautiful anymore. Everyone is supposed to have a pronounced ugliness. You can see this with even some of the race swaps that are occurring with Capcom and SNK, where they replace Blue Mary with a completely different character with the same costumes and attributes. And this is leading to somewhat of a backlash where people are going, okay, you're doing things that are deteriorating the quality of the game. It's just more focused on this political progressive activism that has invaded Eastern entertainment. It seems like Capcom is going to be the first major victim of this. Of course, we know Sony has been captured. We can see with Concord, they produce a haphazard, terrible game with ugly characters. That has to be the biggest bomb for Sony most recently. And of course, Capcom is putting out these diversity standards that are resulting in a backlash from gamers, where gamers are looking at the content and they're thinking, what are you making? I think especially with this race swap, they could have made a beautiful character with this design, but they went into the Concord perspective of this, trying to make something that is aesthetically unappealing to the majority of the fan base. And I think this is leading to a result where people are stepping away maybe from Street Fighter because of these results. And I think this is going to happen even more intensely as you bring in people that don't care about Street Fighter to make Street Fighter games. That usually lends itself to a complete failure of a game. And I think we saw this with Concord, where they introduced people into the gaming industry that don't care about gaming or have the skills or wherewithal to produce a good game. You're getting the results with games like Flintlock, with Concord, and a whole host of others that are being made by people that don't have the skills to make games and don't even like the games industry. They're just there for their progressive agenda. And I think we can see this with some of the quotes that are being listed here, where they are just more focused on the quota of the game. You can see here where they say, while our internal directors are currently all male in addition to women, going forward, we will consider non-Japanese directors. Regarding female managers, currently 21.2% of employees are female and 13.6% of our core talent is female. We are aiming to bring the percentage of female managers up to 15%. Looking ahead, we believe we will be able to see more female directors by broadening our scope and increasing the ratio. And this is looking outside of Japan for female managers. And this, when you see within the video gaming industry a concerted effort to bring people of different genders, different races into the mix, it's usually not bringing in the best of those people. It's bringing in people that have no interest but just to fill the ranks, and even given power to destroy the games that they're producing. And I think that is the faulty assumption with everything related to DEI, where it's focused on filling up quotas rather than bringing up a quality of talent. I think you see this all throughout the entertainment industry, where you're not bringing in talent, you're bringing in a race, you're bringing in a gender, and it's leading to bad quality product. And I think that's the essential thing. I have a gripe with that. It will lead to bad product. But maybe you think Capcom will succeed at this. They're not dead yet, but for me, I don't see any future where Capcom sustains its growth right now, because it's doing all the wrong moves at the wrong time, especially when DEI is getting a large pushback in America, and it seems like Capcom is diving head first while the rest of the world is pulling away. But you leave a comment, tell me what you think. Like, comment, share, subscribe. This is Wagner Knows Why. Catch you next time.